readers, welcome back to Reading Realm. I am recording this a few weeks before, but I think I'm going to try to post this review around Thanksgiving because the book that I'm reviewing today is The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's really, really hard to see the cover because it's kind of reflective and also not very large font. And so this is the book version of the movie. And this came after the movie. So this is not the inspiration for the movie. This is the movie turned into a book, basically. And I figure that Thanksgiving is sort of the perfect holiday to post this around because it is in between Halloween and Christmas, and that's kind of what this book is. And this movie, it's kind of in between Halloween and Christmas, so I feel like it fits there, I guess. I was considering doing it actually around Christmas because I don't really have another specifically Christmassy book, but I decided to do it around Thanksgiving just because I think that is, like, if I did it on Christmas, it would take away from the Halloween part. And I just think the Halloween part is really fun because I love Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And so this book, I also feel like I really like the way it's written because it kind of keeps with sort of the dark, like, all the pages are black, like, the book is really dark, and I just think that it's fun to read, because it's just, I don't feel like you see pages like this very much, and I will say, I think that this is really, really fun to have books that are based off movies, because, and to be fair, I have not actually watched this movie in a few years, so I don't remember every single detail, but I think it's really fun because there are definitely parts where, without sounding forced, some of the lines of dialogue are originally lyrics to some of the songs in the movie, but they aren't fully, like, writing out the whole song in the book, because that feels like it would be a little bit weird, just the way that this book is written, if it had gone from, like, normal writing to, like, here's a song, but it isn't like that at all. And the thing that I think is really, really cool about it is because it was a movie first, I feel like this book has some really, really, really good imagery that's basically describing the scene of what was happening in the movie in a really vivid way that I feel like authors who may not have watched the scene before writing it don't necessarily have that exact same way of writing it. So I think that was kind of cool to be able to see the visuals that you see in the movie kind of verbalized into written word rather than being seen. And I also will say, I feel like in the movie, for me personally, and again, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't know how this would be different if I watched it now, but I feel like Sally was not a memorable character to me at all when I watched it before. Like, I would always forget that she existed between scenes, and I feel like that kind of for a lot of the characters in this, because it's kind of like Jack is the main character, and everyone else is kind of like there. But then, in this, I feel like I got so much more of a perspective into, like, Sally's sort of motives and thoughts and everything that I started to understand her as a character a lot more, whereas in the movie, I just found it a little bit weird how she kind of barely interacted with him, and then at the end of the movie, they're together. Because I was like, have they ever really, like, gotten to know each other, you know? But I feel like through this book, you actually kind of see that more, um, because you can see sort of their unspoken thoughts about it, which I think was definitely fun to see. And I think made her feel like she played a more important role in the story than I felt she did in the movie, because in the movie I feel like she did some stuff that was, I guess, important. Like she definitely like played a role that was important, but it felt also like, I want to say this carefully because I don't want to make it sound really bad. But in the movie, a lot of the characters are male or come across as like masculine. And so a little bit when I was watching the movie, I kind of felt like, is she just there to be a female character? Um and again, I watched this a while ago, so I don't know how I would feel now, but it kind of felt a little bit like they just needed a girl in here. So it's not just all male characters. Um and especially because she does like traditional female things, like she sews and she cooks and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know if she's like just there to be that, you know? And I don't know if anyone else kind of gets that feeling. But I think that reading this, and I kind of want to go back and watch it now because I feel like maybe I missed stuff when I watched it the first time. But I think picking up on the fact that she was made to be like this soft person because the person who made her like wanted someone like that, I think kind of makes a little more sense. Like why she's doing all these sort of traditionally female things. And also there's nothing wrong with people who like to cook and sew and everything like that. Like my mom sewed me clothes when I was younger. She enjoys sewing, she enjoys cooking. I enjoy some sewing. I'm not as good at it as my mom. I enjoy knitting. I have actually like 3 knitting projects within reach right now. Like I sometimes enjoy cooking. I feel like for me it's like it's more fun if I'm cooking for someone, because if it's just for myself, it's like I spend so much time cooking and then I have to clean up and put everything away, and I had to meal prep before and plan everything. And so by myself it's not quite as fun. But like there's nothing wrong with people that do that, but when the only major female character does those things and like no other character does those things, that's why I was a little bit like, okay, that's that's kind of interesting. But knowing that she was like specifically created to kind of do that, I feel like kind of changes my perspective on that. And I think also seeing that she was actually like very intelligent, and also like doing her best to help people. And sometimes she wasn't taken seriously. And that was not her fault. Like she did her best. And I think reading it from this perspective, it kind of makes sense why they end up together too, because you can kind of see how they start to realize that they do actually like each other and they are actually kind of compatible, which I think is really interesting. And I think it also gives more insight into several characters. And especially, I feel like it's really interesting comparing the movie to this book because I feel like in the movie, you see a lot of what Jack is thinking or planning or doing, um, and especially with different songs that there are, you kind of see more of what's happening there and sort of what's motivating him or how he's feeling. But I also feel like this added even more to that because there are moments where it's like, there wasn't a song here in the movie, but this is explaining like how he feels or what he's doing in a way where it's like maybe a person watching the movie wouldn't really pick up on that, or at least not on like first watch. Um, but I thought it was really cool, and I also think it's definitely like an interesting. I feel like I haven't read very many books, or not as many books, where it's like animated going to an actual textbook, not like a comic or like graphic novel. Because like when I did The Secret World of Arrietty, that was just like frames from the movie with text on them. So it was more of like a graphic novel format because especially with Studio Ghibli, I feel like the images are so important. Like that is kind of what makes them so special is the art. And the stories are amazing too, not to say they aren't. I love Studio Ghibli, but I feel like their art style is so distinctive and so lively. Like it brings so much into it that I feel like that fit really well to have the visuals along with the text. And also because that was a situation where it was based on a book, went to a movie, and then was turned into a graphic novel of the movie. I think it's a little different than this, where it went movie, chapter book. And I think they did a really good job of conveying the imagery of things despite not having pictures. And actually, I just realized there is another book that I was going to read this year that is an animated movie to more of a novel format, which is My Neighbor Totoro, which again, Studio Ghibli. But I think that it was really, really well done overall. And I also feel like I'm gonna assume that a lot of people are at least somewhat familiar with the story of this, just because it is a very popular movie for both Christmas and Halloween. And I feel like there's merch of these characters like everywhere. I like just in the last week ran into like 3 people with t-shirts with characters of these on them. So I feel like this one is one where I'm not being quite as careful about spoilers, like saying they end up together, because it's like I feel like a lot of people know this this story, at least to some extent. Now also I think them ending up together is not the biggest spoiler in this book, even though that's like the end of it. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on in this book. But I think it's really, really fun. And I think also it kind of gives more presence to some of the other characters in Halloween Town, because I feel like in the movie, a lot of them are kind of like ensemble cast in songs. And like in This Is Halloween, you kind of get individual introductions to some of them. But for most of the movie, they're just kind of like, they're doing stuff. And in this, they have actual, like, I don't know, they're written in a way where it's like, okay, they are here, they are like doing things, they're having thoughts and feelings about what's happening. And they were in the movie too, I'm trying, I don't really know how to explain what I mean right now, but like in the movie, and again, it's been a few years, but like I remember feeling like, oh yeah, there are like a ton of characters in this during This Is Halloween when they're all introducing themselves and saying what they're doing. Like in this, the clown with the tearaway face is kind of, um, I feel like has more presence than the one line in the song, and I mean they're there during the other events of the movie and book story, um, but they were more memorable this way, and especially like the really minor ones. I think it was kind of fun to see that, and it's kind of like I feel like whenever people talk about this movie, specifically movie, because I don't know of anyone who's read it, but I feel like they always forget those characters. Like, people remember Jack, obviously. They remember, like, the mayor. They remember Sally, and they remember, like, Oogie Boogie and Sandy Claus. Like, they don't really remember all the minor characters. And I would say that this book, even though they are still, like, more minor compared to those other characters who kind of are super important to the main plot or are the main character, I do feel like I remember them more after reading this than I did when watching the movie. And I also just think it's really, really fun because I remember when I was younger, I would love when there was a movie that I would watch, and then my parents would read me a book of it because I could like imagine what was happening, and or if I read a book and then was like, "Oh, there's a movie. That's super cool. Now I want to watch this." Um and so I think that this is really cool because it is a book that I feel like I could picture a parent reading to their kid. Um Maybe not a super young kid because again, this is kind of like there are some sort of morbid parts and sort of more adultish themes with like heavy gambling stuff with Oogie Boogie and stuff like that. But I think this would be just a really fun book to read at bedtime for kids, because it is sort of, I would say, I don't know if this one actually says what age it's recommended for. I don't think it does. But I would say maybe like 7 or 8 and up. I would say it would be like a fun bedtime story, and especially if they like the movie, I think it's really fun. And also because it doesn't have the songs actually written out, they're just sort of references to them. You don't have to sing on the soundtrack while doing it if that's something that would deter you from trying to read this book. So I know some people, when they have a book that's based off a musical that has the actual songs written out, they're like, I don't want to read this out loud. So, yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. Um, it's definitely like an easy reading book because I think it is designed kind of for younger people. It's got not a ton of text per page, and so I think it's definitely like an accessible book for younger kids. It's definitely not like an adult targeted book, I would say. I think it's kind of like a family book. It can be targeted for kids, and it can be targeted for teens, and it can be targeted for adults, kind of like the movie. I feel like people of different ages can enjoy it. But I definitely think that it's very fun. I think it does a really good job of sort of the humor matched with the more serious stuff, which I think is reminiscent of the movie. And I thought that the descriptions were all really, really cool. And I think it's just a really interesting, just interpretation of sort of getting into the mind of some of the characters that you don't really see their thoughts as much in the movie, just because they aren't the protagonists, so they don't get a whole inner monologue, and they're not the antagonists, so they don't get a whole, like, song monologue thing. So, I think that is definitely a really fun part of this book. The descriptions as well are really, really fun. And also trying to, like, pick out which parts are the songs, because some of them are really obvious, and then some of them are a little bit more obscure, of like, oh yeah, there was a song here in the movie, but when reading it, it's not quite as obvious necessarily. And so that's just fun. And yeah, I really liked it. I think anyone who's a fan of the movie, I think you should read the book, because it's just kind of a fun sort of expanded perspective to some of the people. And I think overall it's just, I like this world building, I guess, of the movie and the book. It's just very fun, and I think it's kind of fun to have something that is more targeted for kids that also does kind of go a little bit into dark humor sometimes, because I feel like a lot of kids' movies are so, like, I don't know how to word it correctly, but they're, like, avoiding anything that could potentially be scary. And I feel like this book is kind of the opposite. It's like, yeah, there are missiles, and there are, like, these creatures that live just to go terrorize children on Halloween, and all that stuff. Oh, also I wanted to mention, I forgot earlier, but it's funny because instead of having chapter titles, the chapters are counted in days until Halloween. And then at one point it switches and becomes days until Christmas, because they decide that's what they're doing instead. And I think that's another thing that I didn't really get the sense of in the movie, is that this takes place over more than a year. It takes place from Halloween night to Christmas the next year. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it was mentioned in the movie and I just don't remember, but I kind of got the sense that it was like 2 months rather than like 14 months. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing to kind of realize, like, oh yeah, they were working on this for like a whole year, over a year. But yeah, I really liked it. I think anyone else who likes the story or this kind of humor, I think you would like it. Or your kids might like it if you have kids that are around the age range that would enjoy this. It doesn't really have any pictures other than the cover, but there's a lot of good imagery, descriptions, and stuff. And if they've seen the movie, or if you've seen the movie, you can probably imagine it, just based on knowing what the movie showed. So I think that it is a very fun book for anyone, and I think that this is like the perfect season to read it, because you can read it for Thanksgiving, for Halloween, for Christmas, because it kind of is in that sort of range of time of year. And I feel like this is probably my favorite Christmas movie, because I don't really watch a lot of Christmas movies. But also, I definitely listened to the soundtrack of this around Halloween too, so I feel like it's just this whole season, like October to December, is the perfect time to read this book. I actually started reading it a little bit before Halloween, but I didn't finish it until about a week ago, and I'm finally reviewing it now, and I'll post it in, like, next week. When's Thanksgiving? Next week or the week after? I think the week after. But I really, really liked it. I think it's definitely worth reading. And also, it is just a very surprisingly small, compact book. So it's really convenient to carry around and take with you. Because also, at least for mine, it's hardback. So I definitely have some books where it's like, I don't want to shove it in my backpack because I don't want it to get crumpled or bent at all or damaged. But this one, it's like really durable. So I've been carrying it around with me, reading it. So if you like sturdy, portable books, this is also a good option, and I like to highlight that because some books definitely are not. But I had a lot of fun reading it and reviewing it. This kind of makes me want to go watch the movie again, but also right now it's 2 a.m., so I probably won't do that right now because I have a lot of other things to do. But I hope you liked it. Let me know if you've read this book, or if you haven't, let me know what you're reading. Hopefully it's something good. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe because it really helps me out. And keep reading. Bye!